The headlights cut through the foggy Alabama highway, and Marcus knew something was wrong the moment the black SUV pulled in front of him sideways, blocking the road. He barely had time to brake when two white men stepped out, suits tight, expressions tighter. One tapped on the window. Hard. Marcus didn't move. His hands stayed on the steering wheel, 10 and 2, visible. Always visible. The man leaned in. "You seen a white girl pass this way?" he asked, voice sharp. "Blonde. Early 20s. Might have asked for help." Marcus forced his voice calm. "No, sir. Just fixing a flat. I pulled over 20 minutes ago. Ain't seen anyone." The second man circled the car, peering into the back seat like a predator sizing up prey. "You traveling alone?" he asked from behind the glass. Marcus nodded once. "Yes, sir." The first man pulled a badge from his coat pocket. "Private investigations. Corporate. Not police, but we got authority. You mind opening the trunk?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "I do mind. Without a warrant or badge from law enforcement, you don't have the right." The man's eyes narrowed. "You hiding someone?" "I'm just trying to get home." The man stepped back slightly, but his posture said this wasn't over. His partner, now at the rear of the car, tapped on the trunk once, then again. Louder. Marcus's heart dropped. Then the sound came, so faint it could have been imagined. Tap, 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 from inside the trunk. The taller man froze. His partner turned instantly. "What was that?" "I don't know," Marcus said. "Too fast." The first man leaned toward the driver's side window again, his face now tighter, angrier. "Pop it open!" Marcus stared ahead, gripping the wheel so tight his knuckles went white. This is how black men die, on empty highways, with no one watching. "I said open the trunk." "I told you!" And that's when the man's radio crackled. A voice on the other end. "Subject possibly picked up at the southbound exit. Black sedan, Alabama plates. Visual confirmed. Move out." The second man's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, looked at the screen, then glanced at Marcus's license plate. He cursed under his breath. "Wrong guy." The first man stared at Marcus for a long, heavy second. His jaw clenched, his hand lingering near his jacket. Then, with a scoff, he stepped back. "If you see her," he muttered, "you didn't." They got in their SUV and peeled off into the fog. Marcus waited. 10 seconds. 20. A full minute. Then he slowly reached down and pressed the trunk release button. With a soft, mechanical click, the trunk opened behind him, and out popped a pair of messy blonde curls and wide, terrified eyes. "Are they gone?" she whispered. Marcus didn't answer. He was still shaking. The girl climbed out, covered in mud, designer jacket torn at the sleeve, sneakers soaked. She looked like she'd run 10 miles through a swamp. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved my life." Marcus turned to face her. "You better start talking." Because whatever just happened wasn't random. And Marcus Thomas had already lost everything once because of people like them. He wasn't about to let it happen again.
The sun peeked over the hills of rural Georgia, casting long shadows over the quiet roads. His stomach growled. He hadn't eaten since the night before. The $22 in his pocket wasn't for food. It was for gas. Maybe. He drove past shuttered gas stations, broken-down signs, and a town that looked like it had been forgotten by time, and by money, just like him. 3 years ago, Marcus had pitched his tech company to investors in glass towers. He had worn suits, spoken at startup events, made software that helped small black-owned businesses organize funding. Back then, he believed talent mattered. He believed hard work would break through. He stopped believing the day a major fund pulled out without explanation, 3 hours after a partner learned he was black. Since then, he'd been in free fall. No job offers, no second chances. He sold his apartment, moved into a friend's spare room, and borrowed money from people who had nothing to give. Now, he delivered supplies for a struggling courier service, just trying to keep gas in the tank, just trying to survive. The road stretched for miles, empty and cracked. He spotted a lone figure walking up ahead, thumb out, hoodie up, small backpack slung tight over the shoulders. He slowed. His instincts screamed no. Don't stop. Don't invite trouble. But the figure turned slightly. A young white girl, maybe mid-20s, flushed face, eyes darting back like she was being followed. He sighed. Windows down, he leaned out. "You all right?" She didn't speak, just stared at him for 2 seconds too long. "You lost or running?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "Running." That should have been it. He should have driven off. But something about the way she hugged her backpack, like it held her last breath, made him unlock the passenger door. "Get in, fast!" She jumped in, slammed the door shut, like she was sealing herself from the world. Marcus didn't ask any more questions. Not yet. He just drove. 5 miles later, at an old gas station with a flickering open sign, he pulled in, left the girl in the car, and went inside. The clerk, a middle-aged white man, watched Marcus like he was casing the place. "Pump 320, Marcus said, placing the bills on the counter. 25 gets you premium. 20 is all I got." He stepped outside, started fueling, and glanced at his car. The girl sat rigid, her eyes locked on the road behind them, like she expected something to come crawling out of the trees. Then came the black SUV. It rolled in slowly, parked 2 pumps over, tinted windows. The girl ducked. Marcus's heart thumped. The driver stepped out, tall, buzz-cut, black blazer. The other man followed, bald, square jaw, same outfit. They didn't get gas, they just scanned the area. Marcus stayed calm, kept pumping. The men walked toward the building. One stopped near Marcus's car, peered inside. "Nice ride," he said. Marcus nodded once. "It gets me there." "You see a blonde girl come through here?" he asked casually. Marcus looked him dead in the eye. "Just me and the road." The man squinted, then nodded. "If you do, keep driving. She's trouble." Marcus nodded again, lips tight. The 2 men walked off. Inside the car, the girl looked at him, panic rising. "You okay?" she whispered as he climbed back in. "They think I didn't see her." She was trembling now. "I can't go back. If they find me—" "They won't," Marcus said, pulling out of the station, tires crunching gravel. "They better not." But his gut twisted. He'd just let a stranger into his car. Now, his license plate would be flagged. And that girl, whoever she was, just became his problem.
Marcus drove without speaking. The girl in the passenger seat clutched her backpack like it held her life. Every time a car appeared behind them, her head jerked toward the side mirror. "Mind telling me what I just signed up for?" he finally asked, eyes fixed on the road. She hesitated. "They're not cops. They're my father's people." Marcus didn't blink. Your father sends men in black cars to track down girls on back roads? She nodded. If the girl ran off with something that could destroy him? Yes. He glanced at her. You some kind of whistleblower? Something like that. Then why come to me? I didn't pick you. I was hiding in the trees when I saw your car slow down. You looked safer than most. He almost laughed. Safer? I'm a broke black man driving a busted sedan in the South. Safe is not exactly what I advertise. She smiled faintly, but it faded as quickly as it came. At a crossroads, Marcus pulled into a run-down diner parking lot. We need to eat. You hungry? She nodded. Starving. Inside, they ordered cheap coffee and toast. The waitress barely looked at them, but Marcus could feel the eyes, not from her, from the men at the corner table. Two old white men in hunting caps. One whispered something, the other chuckled. Emily, that's what she'd said her name was, kept her head low. They ate in silence. Then she dropped the bomb. My father owns Crane Systems. Douglas Crane. You heard of him? Marcus stopped chewing. Crane Systems. The same conglomerate that had mysteriously sued his startup into the ground. The same name that funded right-wing PACs, got minority-owned businesses blacklisted from county contracts, and was once caught donating under the table to anti-diversity campaigns. Oh, I know him, Marcus said, his voice suddenly flat. I know what his money's done. Emily nodded slowly. Then you'll understand why I had to run. What's in that bag? She hesitated. You trust me enough to hide in my car, he said. Trust me enough to tell the truth. Emily pulled out a small flash drive from a side pocket of the backpack. It was scratched, dirty, but her grip on it was firm. This has everything, she whispered. Emails, files, audio, internal documents. My dad's empire is built on fraud, intimidation, buying out judges, sabotaging minority-owned companies like yours. I copied it all before I left. Marcus stared at her. The toast in his mouth had gone dry. You're saying your father deliberately went after black businesses? She nodded. Not just yours. Dozens. He had a list. Said it was strategic cleansing. Those were his words. He exhaled, leaned back, eyes fixed on the ceiling fan. I lost everything, he murmured. My company, my home, my name. Emily's voice cracked. I know, and I can't undo that. But maybe I can help stop him. Marcus didn't respond. He just stood up, dropped a few crumpled bills on the table, and walked out. She followed. Back in the car, they were barely on the road for 10 minutes when Marcus's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He ignored it. Then a text. Stolen vehicle alert. Plate number ZFR-2186 reported. Suspected felony involvement. He showed it to her. They tagged my car. Emily's face paled. He's trying to make you look like you kidnapped me. Marcus gritted his teeth. Smart move. Black guy, white girl, rural county. Doesn't take much. We need to disappear, she said, voice shaking. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he veered sharply off the highway, taking a gravel path that led behind a string of abandoned barns. Where are we going? She asked. Someplace they won't look, Marcus said. And someplace I can think. Because right now, every second with her was turning his life into a minefield. And the only thing more dangerous than Douglas Crane's men was the truth he'd been trying to outrun since the day they took everything from him. Marcus parked the car behind a collapsed fence behind what looked like a forgotten church. The paint was peeling, windows boarded, but it had 4 walls and a locked door. That was enough. They sat in silence for a long time. Then Emily spoke. "You want to know why I really ran?" He didn't answer. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a folded photograph. It showed a row of men in suits standing in front of a grand staircase. At the bottom, in the middle, was Douglas Crane, her father, shaking hands with a white man in a judge's robe. Right beside them, a small black business owner was standing with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "My father had just bought his business for pennies," she said, "after driving it into bankruptcy with fake audits." Marcus's fists clenched. "That man," he said quietly, "was my mentor. His company got crushed 2 months before mine did." Emily looked at him. "I didn't know." "You didn't want to know." "I was a kid. I just saw the jets and the meetings. I didn't understand what it cost." Marcus stood up and paced the dusty floor. "So what now?" he snapped. "You confess, and that makes it better?" "No," she said. "But maybe exposing him does." She held up the flash drive. "This isn't just some dirt. It's everything. Fake inspections, lobbyists on his payroll, payment records for the shutdown of small Black and Latino-run startups across 4 states, even bribery to media outlets to bury lawsuits." Marcus stared at it like it was a bomb. "Why me?" he asked. "Why hide in my car?" "Because when I was younger, I heard my father yell your name during a call. He said you were too stubborn to break, that you'd make noise. That's why they made sure to erase you." Marcus turned away. He remembered that call. The investors who ghosted him. The lawsuit over nothing. The data breach that wasn't. It all made sense now. "Congratulations," he said bitterly. "You're part of the machine that ruined me." "I'm trying not to be," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Marcus walked over, slowly took the flash drive, and stared at it. "If I plug this in, there's no going back." "Then don't go back," she said. "Help me finish what he started. By tearing it all down." He looked at her. This girl, with all her privilege, had everything. And still, she chose to burn it all just to tell the truth. He inserted the drive into his old laptop. It whirred like it might die. Then the screen lit up. Folder after folder opened. Project Irongate. Targeted closures. Diversity opt-out clauses. One folder was simply labeled Tech Vision. He clicked it. Inside, memos, emails, fake press releases, sabotage blueprints. And one file, a voice memo, was dated 1 week before Marcus's company folded. He played it. Douglas Crane's voice came through, sharp and smug. "I don't care what Marcus Thomas built. I want that company gone. Leak fake financials, scare the investors, and let the vultures circle. You know how this works. We don't let people like him win." Marcus slammed the laptop shut. Emily flinched. "I'm going to bury him," Marcus said, voice low and cold. "You won't be alone," she replied. They stayed the night inside that church. Marcus didn't sleep. At sunrise, he stepped outside. The sky was clear. No sirens, no headlights, just cold air and the weight of 1,000 buried lies now floating to the surface. Back inside, Emily was sitting cross-legged on the floor, typing on her phone. "I just texted someone," she said. "A friend who might be able to help. She's a lawyer. Latina. Used to work corporate until she saw too much. She's been waiting for something like this. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You trust her? With my life, she said. Marcus nodded once. Good, he said, because if we're going to war, we need someone who knows how to fight in a courtroom. Emily met his eyes. Then, let's bring the whole system down. Maya Rivera opened the door with suspicion in her eyes and a Glock in her hand. The moment she saw Emily, her grip loosened. You've got some nerve showing up here, Maya said. I didn't come alone, Emily replied, stepping aside so Marcus could be seen. Marcus held up the flash drive. I think this'll explain everything. Inside Maya's cramped apartment, papers covered every surface. Law books were stacked next to coffee mugs. A whiteboard near the window had arrows connecting names, companies, and court cases. You still building war maps? Marcus asked, smirking faintly. Maya ignored the joke. If you're here with her, things must be worse than I thought. Emily placed the drive on the table. Everything's on there. My father's real business, contracts, audio files, bribes, sabotage orders. Maya stared at her. You're the daughter of Douglas Crane, the same Douglas Crane who called me an affirmative action accident in court 5 years ago. I know, Emily whispered. Maya picked up the flash drive and plugged it into her laptop. What am I looking at? She asked. Everything your instincts told you but couldn't prove, Marcus said. For the next 2 hours, the room was silent except for the clicks of Maya's mouse and the occasional sharp inhale. It was all there. Crane's confidential memos instructing his legal team to destroy black-owned startups using fabricated lawsuits. Fake whistleblower complaints submitted to regulators. Audio clips of meetings where they laughed about sinking companies just to keep the right kind of face in the boardrooms. Maya sat back in her chair like she'd been punched. This could take down a whole damn empire. Emily nodded. That's the goal. We'll need more than just truth, Maya said. We'll need strategy. Marcus leaned in. Can you help us? Maya didn't blink. I've waited 5 years for someone to walk through my door with something like this. I'm in. That night, Maya called her most trusted contact, Zoe Chun, a former NSA cyber analyst turned whistleblower who now ran secure infrastructure for activist journalists. Zoe arrived the next day with a beat-up laptop, a black hoodie, and a stare that could crack glass. Marcus watched her work like a surgeon, mapping Crane's system, connecting data trails, encrypting evidence, and setting up redundancies. We're going to leak this in phases, she said. First, media, then regulators, finally, the public, all at once. We control the narrative. What about retaliation? Marcus asked. They'll try, Zoe replied, but they'll be swinging blind. Meanwhile, Maya drafted legal filings, complaints backed by the data, and routed them through third parties to avoid tipping off Crane's people. In one file, they discovered a secret list, over 150 companies that had been tagged for takedown by Crane's team. 89 were black-owned. Marcus stared at the list. His fingers traced names he hadn't seen in years. Some friends, some rivals, all crushed. He clenched his jaw. This isn't just business, he said. This is warfare. Emily sat across from him. Then, let's end it. Over the next few days, the four of them worked from Maya's apartment like a war room. Old monitors lit the walls. Sticky notes layered every inch of whiteboard space. They called it Operation Turntable. We're not just exposing a man, Maya said. We're exposing a system that let him thrive. They crafted emails to journalists, influencers, whistleblower outlets. They compiled timelines, cross-referenced financial records, and confirmed payments to judges and regulators. Marcus even reached out to two former TechVision employees who had gone into hiding after being threatened. Both agreed to testify anonymously. Then came the final piece. Zoe found an access point to Crane's live corporate server, using a credential embedded in one of Emily's files. It was a hidden admin code, one that never expired. Emily stared at it. I remember my father making me memorize this. Said if anything ever happened to him, I'd be the only one who could reset the kingdom. Maya looked at her. Well, princess, let's burn it to the ground. Marcus stood, the weight of years pressing on his shoulders. We go public, he said. We let the world see it all. Maya, Zoe, and Emily nodded. It was no longer just about revenge. It was about exposing the quiet racism wrapped in handshakes and contracts, the kind that ruins lives without leaving fingerprints. And now, they had the fingerprints. The Winterdale Convention Center was packed with reporters, investors, and camera crews. Banners hung from the ceiling announcing Crane Systems' historic acquisition of Garner Technologies, a billion-dollar merger that would make Douglas Crane one of the most powerful tech moguls in the world. But Douglas wasn't smiling because of the merger. He was smiling because he believed he had won. Backstage, he adjusted his tie in the mirror, turned to his assistant and said, "Get security to tighten up. I don't want any surprises. I know my daughter's involved in something." The assistant nodded nervously. Out front, the cameras rolled. Douglas Crane took the stage to applause. He stood behind a glass podium, calm and arrogant. "This acquisition represents the future," he began. "Crane Systems has always stood for innovation, integrity, and leadership." Every phone in the auditorium buzzed at once. At first, it was confusion, then gasps. Screens across the room lit up. Emails, audio clips, spreadsheets, contracts, video files. One message appeared on every device. The real Crane Systems: racism, corruption, and corporate sabotage. The crowd erupted. Reporters stood, phones pointed at the stage. "Mr. Crane, is it true your company funded fake audits to destroy black startups? What about the payments to Judge Halverson? His name's in these files. Do you deny these recordings?" Douglas froze. His smile dropped. "Shut it down," he growled to the AV tech. "Now!" Too late. The projectors switched from the merger slide deck to a video message. Emily's face filled the giant screens. "My name is Emily Crane. I am the daughter of Douglas Crane. I have seen the truth behind my father's empire. I can no longer be silent. These files show deliberate targeting of Black and Latino entrepreneurs, fraudulent regulatory filings, and a system designed to protect the rich and erase the rest. I refuse to be part of it." The room was dead silent. Then the doors at the back opened. 3 federal agents entered quietly. In the third row, Maya and Marcus sat side by side, watching it all unfold. Douglas's voice cracked over the mic. "This is a smear campaign. My daughter is unstable. These files are forgeries." But Zoe's setup was already live. Multiple screens displayed timestamps, origin logs, authenticated documents pulled directly from Crane's servers. It was airtight. A reporter shouted, "Sir, are you saying your daughter fabricated 18 months of internal communications and federal documents?" Douglas reached for his earpiece. "Where is security? Get them out of here." "Sir," the head of security whispered in his ear, pale as paper. "There with the DOJ." Douglas turned, and standing in the wings was Maya, now wearing a Department of Justice advisor badge. She stepped forward, flanked by 2 agents. "Douglas Crane, you are under federal investigation for tax fraud, racketeering, judicial corruption, and corporate sabotage," she said calmly. "You have no idea who you're dealing with," he hissed. "I do," Maya replied. "That's why I came prepared." As agents stepped forward, Douglas's eyes scanned the room and locked on Marcus. "You," he growled. "You think this makes you a hero? You're still nothing." Marcus stood. "I was nothing to you the day you decided I was too black to succeed. Today, I'm the man who made sure the world saw what you really are." The silence was heavy. Then came the murmurs. Then applause. Slow at first, but growing. Reporters circled Marcus. Cameras swung his way. But he didn't bask in it. He simply turned to Emily, who had just stepped in through the side door, escorted by Zoe. "You did it," she said. "No," Marcus said. "We did." As Douglas was led out in cuffs, a reporter asked him if he had anything to say to the victims of his company's policies. He turned, snarled, and muttered, "This isn't over." Maya stepped forward. "It was over the moment you chose power over humanity." Outside, news alerts exploded. Tech mogul Douglas Crane arrested in multi-state corruption probe. Files reveal systemic targeting of minority-owned businesses. Daughter exposes billionaire father in stunning courtroom coup. Inside the convention center, silence gave way to chaos and justice. For the first time, the public saw the cost of quiet racism, the closed doors, the shattered dreams, the deliberate erasure. And they saw who stood up to it, not with fists, but with truth. The sign on the side read, "Horizon Tech Incubator." Inside, dozens of young Black, Latino, and Indigenous founders pitched ideas, shared prototypes, and filled the halls with the sound of purpose. The space pulsed with a kind of energy Marcus hadn't felt since his first startup, before the sabotage, before Crane. He adjusted his blazer and took a breath of cool evening air. Behind him, Emily walked out, holding 2 glasses. She handed him one. 3 years. You built all this in just 3 years. We built it, Marcus corrected. Emily smiled. She looked different now. No longer the lost heiress hiding in a trunk. She wore purpose, like armor. Douglas Crane, she said, almost under her breath. They added 5 more years to his sentence last month. I saw. He still doesn't believe he did anything wrong. He never will, Marcus replied. Some people confuse legacy with control. Emily leaned against the railing. Do you regret it? Any of it? Marcus took a moment to answer. Sometimes I wish it had happened differently. That I hadn't lost everything just to find what mattered. But I wouldn't change where it led. Inside, Maya was leading a panel on legal equity in tech. Zoe was setting up secure access for underfunded founders. Their team had grown from 4 rebels to a full ecosystem of people fighting for a fairer system. Did you ever think you'd end up here? Emily asked. No, Marcus said. I thought I'd be invisible forever. Emily nodded. Now you're a headline, a symbol. I don't care about headlines, he said. I care about that kid down there with a prototype in his backpack who finally feels like he belongs in the room. They both turned as a group of college students walked past, laughing, holding Horizon welcome folders. One of them, A tall black teen in a worn hoodie paused when he saw Marcus. His eyes widened. He nudged his friend. "Is that him?" the friend whispered. Marcus gave a small nod. The teen walked up, nervous. "Sir, Mr. Thomas, your story is the reason I started my project. I just wanted to say thank you." Marcus extended his hand. "What's your name?" "Deshawn." "You just get started, Deshawn." The kid nodded. Marcus smiled. "Good. Then don't let anyone tell you how far you can go." The teen grinned and walked away, energized. Emily watched the moment unfold quietly. "That used to be you." Marcus nodded. "Now it's him." Later that night, after the crowd had thinned and the lights dimmed, Marcus stayed back alone in the office, looking over plans for a new funding round focused on justice tech, startups that created tools to fight bias in courts, hiring, and housing. Emily stepped in one last time before leaving. "Heading out," she said. "You good?" He turned and looked around the space. "Yeah, I'm good." "You've done something real, Marcus. You didn't just survive it. You built something that outlives it." He walked her to the elevator. "I never wanted revenge," he said quietly. "I wanted truth to mean something again." Emily smiled. "And now it does." As the elevator closed, she looked at him one last time. "You know, you didn't just change your life. You changed mine." Marcus nodded. "We both chose to step out of the system that made us." Outside, the city lights shimmered against the dark sky. Marcus walked back to the rooftop, alone, hands in his pockets, shoulders steady. There was no crowd, no cameras, just the quiet hum of a future being rewritten. A future where Black founders didn't have to ask permission. A future where the system didn't bury truth. A future where his story didn't end in silence. He looked out over the city. They tried to erase him. Instead, he built something they couldn't control.